In this podcast from Chapter 5, Moving, Lifting, and Transporting Patients, we continue by taking a look at the devices we can use to help us lift or move a patient. These include backboards, scoop stretchers, and Stokes stretchers. Let's begin. Transport equipment helps us facilitate good body mechanics and lessen an injury to ourselves when used appropriately. We have a list of the devices that may be available to us. One of the most common devices is a long spine board or a backboard. Some patrols will pack these in their toboggans so that they're readily available. We can use them if we have a patient with a suspected spinal injury, but sometimes we can just use it for transport or extrication from a difficult location. Simply put, we can use a backboard to put handles on a patient to move them. They're typically made from plywood, but those are starting to fade, and more commonly from lightweight plastic that's actually transparent to x-rays. If a patient is on it and needs to make their way to the hospital, they can shoot x-rays through it. Most commonly, we'll use a backboard to immobilize some sort of major injury, such as a spinal injury, unstable pelvis, or femur fracture. If we use it for carrying or moving a patient, we still want to make sure that we've strapped the patient to the backboard so they don't slip off. Placing the patient on the backboard will be a proper lifting method, such as a bean or bridge lift or a log roll. Now, backboards are not comfortable. It's a hard surface that doesn't necessarily contour to the natural curves we find in our spine. That's an important consideration if you're far away from medical care, such as in the back country, and at a minimum, the backboard should be padded if possible with a blanket that might be in the toboggan, or gaps that we find in, for example, behind the knees can be padded with blankets or towels to reduce some of the discomfort. Portable stretchers have an aluminum frame and essentially a vinyl fabric that's stretched over the top. They're a little bit wider than a backboard, but sometimes they'll exist in two pieces so that they fold and are easily transported. A scoop stretcher is very commonly found in a bunch of bike patrols, and it's two pieces, and those pieces split as we see here. Properly placed, the wide end of the device will go to support the patient's head. The narrow end that we see at the bottom will support their feet, and it's adjustable with just a couple of quick releases right here to account for different patients' heights. Final transport may be to place a patient from our device onto a wheeled ambulance stretcher. Now, these are cool because they raise and lower, and we can place the patient in different positions, such as elevating their head if they're having breathing difficulties. If that ambulance stretcher is placed completely flat, it's possible to just move a backboard or a toboggan even right onto it. Basket stretchers would be common for search and rescue operations, perhaps a bike patrol, because they can be disassembled into two parts. They have handles all the way alongside if we have to extricate a patient from a difficult spot, and they're pretty light and easy to carry as well. Now, a sitting lifting device might be something you find in your aid room. They're typically made from plywood, and they have handles all the way around. Now, this allows us to place a patient in a sitting position if that patient has an injured leg and extend that leg in front of them. If the left leg of this patient was injured, you would just take the sitting lifting device and flip it over to support the left leg. Not used for a patient with a spinal injury. The final thing that we can use for transport is the standard ski patrol toboggan. They're made out of fiberglass and aluminum and steel in the frame. The patient's going to be lifted into the toboggan depending on the injury that we are working with. And the toboggan itself could be used for spinal motion protection, but probably better if they've been placed on a backboard to begin with. That's a summary of the different transport equipment we might find, and we'll practice it with our skills throughout the course.